what? Considering where he is.
So what?
Well, so
Democrats don't like it, so what?
Yeah, but the bottom line...
This isn't a Ponzi scheme. They didn't murder anyone. They didn't rob anyone necessarily.
I mean, they did.
So I view this a little differently.
I think that people would argue that when even white-collar crimes is a form of cheating, and usually there are victims, there are people who are hurt by
a Ponzi
these
scheme, sure, but Abby, the difference from, again, someone who's running a Ponzi scheme versus someone who's committing tax evasion. I think someone who's committing a Ponzi scheme, they're literally harming people in real time. You should go to prison for that. But if you have the means to pay back the fine, I think we'd all agree.
Motivations are, but some people might be shoplifting food, literally, to eat.
It's upper class.
I guess I'm just saying it feels like there's a different standard for rich.
Well, there's not a different standard
for
for
rich
me.
white people.
I know where my ethos
and then
is.
Everybody else, it's like
so
tough
let's lives completely ruined by some ridiculous judge.
But that is not the Trump platform.
24 months
I guess what I'm saying is that's not
Trump did.
That's not the Trump.
That's not law and order, right?
That's not the law and order platform that Donald Trump has been talking about.
It's also possible. This guy was supposed to be paying Social Security and Medicare taxes in for his employees, his nurses, his doctors, and instead bought a $2 million yacht.
Yeah, he's not very.
I'm not really sure that's.
Hello, everybody. Guys, let's get right into this segment. The level of bootlicking by little Shermichael here is just so damn nauseating. And I have a message for Republicans out there. So if you're listening to this, I would like for you to hold on for that. Let's check this out and we'll talk about it.
Is presidential power for sale? New evidence tonight that loyalty and cash pay dividends in the new Trump era. Less than 3 weeks after a Trump mega donor attended a $1 million MAGA dinner at Mar-a-Lago, she got exactly what she wanted. And that's a pardon for her son. The New York Times reveals that a former nursing home executive who pleaded guilty to tax crimes explicitly highlighted his mother's loyalty to Trump in his bid for clemency. She was also linked to an effort to publicize Ashley Biden's diary in 2020. So now her son will be spared from an 18-month prison sentence and more than $4 million in restitution. The White House says he was a target of the Biden administration over his politics. But in addition to that tonight, the president has also pardoned a reality show couple who were convicted of tax evasion and bank fraud. And surprise, their daughter is a MAGA supporter and an activist. This is part of a pattern, and it has been almost accelerating in part because Trump has put a huge loyalist in the pardon office. But this particular case, I mean, is so interesting because this guy, allegedly, according to what he was convicted of, this started, maybe over a decade ago, that he was skimming money that was supposed to be for employment taxes and using it to pay for a yacht. And now a get out of jail free card, Mark, just because his mother raised money for Donald Trump. That just seems to be the swamp being filled, not drained.
Well, look, Abby, I think probably.
Guys, really quickly, let me show you what the female Scott Jennings said about being bribed. That Trump can't be bought. So I'm not worried about that. Check this out.
No one who voted for him, I don't think, thinks that he is a person who can be bribed easily. Certainly after he took a hatchet to the world economy, that solidified that in my mind that he has. And
I find it very interesting that they didn't bring her back on for this episode. You should bring her on specifically for this and say, I thought he couldn't be bought. She attends a $1 million dinner and they get pardoned. Like, unbelievable.
On tonight's show, I'll be defending a lot of the Trump administration policies. I have no interest in defending his pardon policy. I think it's been pretty gross. I think it even was, frankly, at the end of the first administration. If you look at the pardons that came out, there was a lot of coverage at that point about January 6th, and the people that were pardoned were sort of ignored in that coverage. But for an administration that I think prides itself on being tough on crime, first administration pardons are inexcusable. One of the big legislative accomplishments, in theory, was the get out of jail free legislation he passed.
Is this the First Step Act?
Yes. Yes. And then right. And I think that now it's almost like he looked at what Biden did. I think that's what makes it difficult for Democrats to condemn it, is because of how gross Biden's pardons were. But it's almost like he saw what Biden did and said, hold my beer. And I'm going to show you even and go farther.
I mean,
Biden pardoned his family and people in his administration because he knew Trump is a spiteful little child. He was just going to come after them and just harass them. And by the way, this is just not comparable. You think Trump would not have done this if Biden never pardoned anyone? You really think Trump would not have taken this $1 million MAGA dinner and pardoned the people? Like, are you kidding me? Of course, he's paid to play. You pay Trump enough money, he'll do what you want.
Okay, so interestingly, I mean, I think you would get a lot of Democrats arguing the First Step Act was actually a good thing that Trump
Sure,
did in his
a lot of
first term.
Democrats do argue that.
But what he is doing now is not the First Step Act. Definitely.
I think this is a larger,
Yeah.
it's a larger pattern of Donald Trump selling out the little guy in favor of the big guy. If you don't have the resources, he'll send you to CCOT without due process. But if you have resources, you'll get out of jail for free, right? If you're a minor who works hard, he'll cut the program at HHS that takes care of minors while standing on stage and saying that he's for minors. Or he'll give a pardon to a reality TV star with resources instead of helping people who need a tax cut. This is just part of a larger trend with Donald Trump, who will always do things for the wealthy while also claiming he's for working class people, but doing absolutely nothing to back it up. As a matter of fact, undercutting them in the process.
I just think like what these people represent, though, they're all sort of a part of the Donald Trump narrative. He is pardoning reality stars who are being accused of white-collar crimes. President Trump, who is the ultimate victim, namely of some white-collar crimes. I mean, if he exonerates them, it makes him look better. It changes the narrative of his story. You know, tax evasion, these kind of crimes that aren't always as tangible.
I don't know if they're all white-collar crimes. I mean, the first big pardon group he did was pardoning the people who beat up police.
No, but I mean,
That's
these
true.
people in particular.
But they have also like actually backed off of prosecuting white-collar crimes.
Right.
Not just pardoning them. I mean, but there's that, and then there's also the MAGA of it all. The person who I was talking about who's in charge of the pardons, Ed Martin, who couldn't get confirmed as the D.C. attorney, now is in charge of pardons for whatever reason. He wrote on X, "No MAGA left behind," and then he thanked Trump for pardoning Sheriff Jenkins, who is also another character, sentenced to 10 years in prison for taking tens of thousands of dollars in bribes to give random people law enforcement badges that they had not earned.
Look,
this is
Abby,
what the MAGA thing is all about, I
First
guess.
Step Act, I think, was a good thing. I think we over-sentence too much in this country for non-violent crimes. Tax evasion, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but you should be able to pay a fee for that and move on. In this particular case of the sheriff, I don't know anyone who was harmed by his act. I'm not saying that the act was okay, moral, or ethical. I don't agree with it. But should he be sentenced to 10 years any more than the Chrissies or the individual in Florida? Pay your fine and move on. This isn't a Ponzi scheme. They didn't murder anyone. They didn't rob anyone necessarily.
I mean, they did
So
rob
I view this,
people.
I view this a little differently.
I think that people would argue that when even white-collar crimes is a form of cheating, and usually there are victims, there are people who are hurt by
a Ponzi
these
scheme, sure. But Abby,
Yeah,
in the
it's not
case of
just a
Florida, the
Ponzi
gentleman
scheme.
actually paid back the $10 million that he owed, and the judge actually considered that, but decided to sentence him anyway.
Okay,
Unbelievable. See what words he used there? He paid back the money he owed instead of the money he stole. He stole it. He didn't just owe it. He was trying not to pay. He was trying to get away with it. He stole it. Like, this is so pathetic. Those two rich bimbos didn't want to pay their fair share in taxes. They were already millionaires, but that wasn't enough. They have to also steal from us by not paying their taxes. You understand why it's stealing from us, right? It's money that the government is supposed to have. Money that we also pay into, that we get services from. Like, I make the argument that the reason our taxes are so damn high is because of crap like this. The super rich are just so greedy, whether it's legal or illegally. They're already millionaires and they still have to steal. They already pay a fraction in the tax rate that we all pay with these little kind of schemes. Like, just think about this in the context of, at this moment, Trump is pardoning someone who gave him essentially the $1 million dinner. You have to pay $1 million to be in the dinner. So you essentially give Trump $1 million, and he's pardoning these people while at the same time they're cutting Medicaid. Again, and they're cutting Medicaid in order for the super rich people like those people that he just pardoned to get even more richer by paying even less in taxes. Remember, the richest 400 families paid 8% tax rate, which Trump is one of those families. And he still needs a $1 million bribe. And we're supposed to think this $400 million plane. No, there's nothing to see there. Like, this is incredible. Like, Republicans out there, can't you see the reason your life isn't where you wish it was? It's not because of brown people coming over the border, black people, or Jews, or woke, or DI, or whatever garbage that they are constantly feeding into your brain. It's the super rich against all the rest of us. You're just not able to see that yet.
we always talk about deterrence in crime here,
sure.
right? Like, is there no role for deterrence in white-collar crime?
Look, I think the bottom line is this, Abby, is that he rewards loyalty. And it doesn't matter. We can sit here and litigate all these cases like, you know, where with the Chrisley family, should they have been jailed or as long as they were, or should they have been prosecuted the way they were? We can argue this, you know, as long as the day is long. But the ultimate thing is, if you are loyal to Donald Trump, he will repay you. And that is what we're seeing play out. And we're just at the beginning of this administration. And he's doing pardons. He's issuing pardons. Dan worked in the White House, issuing pardons far earlier than typical presidents do. I mean, you may see a couple pardons sprinkled traditionally among presidencies, but most of them come at the end because it is so politically perilous. But Donald Trump says maybe he'll run for re-election, which of course he's not allowed to do by law. But I think he's looking at this as, I'm getting payback, and I'm going to reward people who have been loyal to me no matter what.
And the Culpeper sheriff is somebody, Virginia is one of the few states that has a statewide election this year. Democrat nominee Abigail Spanberger jumped on that right away, and now the Republican ticket's going to have to defend it.
I mean, I'm thinking...
I mean, this is not about loyalty. This is just bribery. It's straight about money.
Still about what Shermichael just said. I mean, in a way, Trump is agreeing with you that white-collar crime is not really crime, and just in general. And then on top of that, if you layer praise for Trump, that's a good reason to get a pardon. What kind of message does that send in this country?
It sends that what he did was not a serious crime. He was indicted for white-collar crime. How does President Trump send that message? By then pardoning anyone who has a similar crime.
But Abby, I think there's a distinct...
That he's a victim.
I think there's a distinct difference from, again, someone who's running a Ponzi scheme versus someone who's committing tax evasion. I think someone who's committing a Ponzi scheme, they're literally harming people in real time. You should go to prison for that. But if you have the means to pay back the fine, I think we'd all agree for the most part, if it's a non-violent offense, and I'm not just talking about these individuals, I'm talking in general, should we put people in prison for non-violent offenses? I don't agree with that.
But Shermichael, this is where Trump is defined.
Hold on. That's amazing what he said there. Non-violent offense. Like, really, should we be doing this? How does CNN not remember what he said not even a week ago? Check out this highlight. I'm not going to let this little worm ever live that one out. Check this out.
Like El Salvador, will send them to places where they might face imminent death.
Absolutely.
And
because that sends a message. If you come to the United States and break our laws, violate our immigration laws, it will have severe consequences.
Like, literally, these people have no morals, no principle. Look how he sits there in his little child booster seat. I think they gave him a little taller one now. Unbelievable. Someone coming over the border illegally, which is not a felon, not a misdemeanor, just a civil offense. Those people, they deserve to die. People who are looking for a better life, the overwhelming majority of these people who commit crimes at a lower rate than Americans, just looking for a better life, escaping immense danger that any one of us, if we were put in that situation, would do for our families or for ourselves. Like, it's incredible. What happens to you? You're weak, you're tired, you're poor. Really? They should be sent to their deaths, and so just be it? But if your super rich little goofy friends are stealing from taxpayers, oh no, nothing to see there, no big deal, no big deal. Just give them a slap on the wrist while we take away your Medicaid. Like, this is incredible. This is who the Republican Party is. Republicans out there, do you agree with this kind of humanity? This kind of thinking? This is the party of Christian values? Does this at all sound like something your God would be okay with? I can assure you, your God will not find whatever answer you give him suffice. Trust me when I tell you this.
He's making his own decisions. He's saying, you know what, I'm going to ignore the judges, I'm going to ignore the jury, and I'm going to decide what I want.
Can pardon people, Adrian. You know
I understand that, but the point is he is doing it at a pace that is very rapid considering where he is.
So what?
Well, so
Democrats don't like it, so what?
Yeah, but the bottom line is he's doing it in a way that is non-traditional, in a way that is, you know, his base may love it, but it's certainly not doing anything to affect the middle. And I think, again, he may not run for, I mean, he can't run for re-election. He says he may, but he's not going to be able to.
Would you agree that we should put non-violent offenders in prison? Democrats typically advocate for that.
No, I'm not saying. I think it depends on what the case is. That's why there's this sort of long.
I'm fascinated by this because if
call them out.
You know, went into a store. Let's call it shoplifting. Sure. Should shoplifters be then just asked to do community service, maybe pay the money back, and then let out? I mean, I literally think that's the opposite of what
I mean, if it's a
Republicans
younger
have been
person,
saying
a teenager,
about
sure.
people who.
If they're teenagers, sure, but if they're adult, no. But if this rich person, multimillionaire, pays Trump $1 million while they were supposed to be in jail for stealing from taxpayers by not paying their taxes, that's fine. Like, incredible.
You know, I mean, I don't know what their motivations are, but some people might be shoplifting food, literally, to eat.
It's upper class.
I guess I'm just saying it feels like there's a different standard for rich.
Well, there's not a different
Yes, it's
standard
upper
for
class
me.
crime.
I know where my ethos
And then
is.
everybody else, it's like
so
tough luck.
let's take your
The hammer
example,
comes down.
And,
Yeah.
and there are some young kids that are impoverished and they stole something from a store. I don't want these kids' lives completely ruined by some ridiculous judge
But that is
sentencing
not
them
the
to
Trump
12
platform.
or 24 months
I guess
in
what I'm
prison.
saying is that's
that
not
Trump
the,
did, by
that's
the way.
not the Trump.
That's not law and
advocated
order,
strongly for.
right?
That's not the law and order
Yeah,
platform
exactly.
that Donald Trump has been talking
It's
about.
also a process. You can elect people to get laws off the books if you want. It's not something that I think you just decide we're going to have somebody granting broad pardons at the White House.
This guy was supposed to be paying Social Security and Medicare taxes in for his employees, his nurses, his doctors, and instead bought a $2 million yacht.
Yeah, he's not very
I'm not really
successful.
sure that's
Not-
something
not a
that we
good-
should let
not a
skirt.
good
And by the
guy.
way, if conservatives are supposed to be the reputation of good fiscal stewards, to let $10 million of tax evasion go by, you do that over and over again, I'm not sure that's a party that really cares about the economy and making sure that revenues are exceeding costs.
All right, coming up next for us, Donald Trump's war.
He just laughs there. Like, dude, like, you're such a scumbag. How Republicans convince some of the poorest people in the country to vote for them is just incredible. And the reason I think this video is important, because on principle, it doesn't make any sense. We should be worried about the poor immigrants coming across the border, but not the super rich who are stealing from us. Right here in the great US of A. Like, Republicans, the independents out there, do you think that this makes more sense? That the super rich are the reason you don't have a house or whatever it is that you want in your life or for your kids? But the poor family coming over doing jobs that Americans don't want to do for the pay, somehow they convince you that those immigrants were the real danger. DEI and woke were the real danger. And immigrants poisoning the blood of the nation, as Trump said. Explain to me how immigrants are the poison, but not the super rich who act as vicious parasites, sucking up all of the country's wealth and resources. I mean, wake up, guys. Trump didn't surround himself with the most billionaires in all administrations for no reason. There's a reason why he has a new boo-boo in Elon Musk, the richest man in the world. Like, guys, open your eyes. They're playing you. But I'm going to leave it there, guys. Let me know what you think about all this. Leave a comment. I try and read just about all of them. It's just getting too much now. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.